Support for WKGC Public Media comes from listeners like you, people who believe in the power of local radio to inform, inspire, and connect the Emerald Coast community. Your gift helps keep educational and entertaining programs on the air while creating hands-on learning opportunities for students. Become a listener supporter today and give securely at WKGC.org. WKGC, education, entertainment, and everything in between. From WKGC Public Media, this is ReelTalk, the place where you can join the cinematic conversations frame by frame each week. I'm your host, R.L. Terry. If movies are your thing, give us a ring, 850-772-6803, or you can text us at 850-329-8936 to join us on air. We'll get to your calls and messages later in the show. Today we're headed into the cinematic desert, and I mean that both literally and metaphorically, with Predator Badlands, a movie I described as, quote, the equivalent of a Let's Play on YouTube with bigger explosions. For me, it's an experience that's all flash and no feeling, kind of like watching someone else have fun while you sit there wondering when it's your turn to play. But the reviews have been both positive and negative, of which the negative reviews, like my own, appear to be the contrarians in the cinematic discourse. Many critics and fans have found a lot to enjoy in this hyperkinetic Predator entry, the visuals, the sound design, and some even the stripped-down storytelling. In my opinion, Badlands is what happens when you try to optimize engagement instead of crafting a narrative, resulting in the film equivalent of clickbait dressed in billion-dollar armor. But my guest today most likely has counterpoints to make, so I am looking forward to the cinematic discourse. Joining me today is returning guest and friend of the show, film critic and musician Gino Sassani. Welcome back to the show, Gino.
Thanks, Ryan. Great to be here again.
For those that may not know, Gino is a member of the Southeastern Film Critics Association and the Critics Association of Central Florida, of which I too am a member. And he's an award-winning musician with a new album out right now wherever you listen to or buy music. And before we get into the movie, Gino, any updates from you on the music front?
Well, yeah, you can get it at any streaming front. It's called G.E. Merchants and Mercenaries, and we also have a YouTube video of the single, which is called Elliot Again. So you can just go to YouTube and type in Elliot Again, G.E. and you can watch our video of our single.
Excellent. It's a great album, folks. I've not listened to the whole thing, but I have listened to a couple of songs. It really is a fantastic album. So if you enjoy listening to new music out there, even if you're like me and your taste in music stopped at whatever you were listening to at age 33 to 35, break out of that box and go out and head to your nearest your place where you find your music and check that out. Now, Gino, some, including myself, have described, as I said at the outset, Badlands as a 2-hour video game cutscene sizzle reel with delusions of grandeur.
Yeah, I heard you say that.
I know. But for audiences just looking for spectacle, maybe perhaps that it's sufficient enough. Going into this episode, I knew you were a little higher on the movie than am I, and we'll find out over the course of the hour how much higher. But I am still curious. What do you make of the overall experience of watching this movie?
Well, how much higher I am is like, say, you're taking the subway, I'm up on the space shuttle.
Oh, my gosh. Okay.
So I'm a lot higher than you are in the movie. I'm not saying it's a great, now don't get me wrong, I'm not putting up there as a cinematic classic, but I think it's the best Predator movie since the first one.
What? Oh my
Absolutely.
Gosh, that is high praise indeed. My goodness,
Absolutely.
I'm glued myself to this conversation, and I don't mean just the cable between the mic and the headphones and the board.
Yeah.
And so I really want to know. I don't know if you're going to change my mind, but I am still really curious why, and I love that you're that much higher than me, because I'm bound to learn something, and who knows, maybe you will give me some points to consider, or that could also be true. So And when I kind of overall, I go into the movie, I haven't, just full disclosure, haven't seen every Predator movie out there. I've seen the majority of them. I'm of, again, minority opinion on The Predator from, 2016. I really liked The Predator. And for me, that was very close to the original one. Also enjoy Alien versus Predator. Also made for a great house at Halloween Horror Nights, several years ago. So I've not seen all of them, but definitely the first one. And listeners, you may know the line, "Get to the chopper." You may not know that it is from Predator, because it's been used over and over and over again in all kinds of different media, but, that legendary line comes from the original Predator. So, when I don't watch trailers unless they're forced upon me, but I don't watch trailers, so I know very little going into the movie here. So my expectations were neither high nor low. I went to go watch it, as you do, Gino. Sometimes, as critics, we just go out and watch whatever's coming out, even if we may not even have a lot of interest in it. And I watched it in premium format. So I watched it how I feel the director and Disney wants viewers. It's a movie. Viewers to appreciate the film. And so I did not watch it in the little art house cinema auditorium. I watched it, in premium format.
And this is a case where I got to tell you, I don't think the trailer did the film justice at all.
Okay. Oh, okay.
I think that's part of the first problem. I think the trailer doesn't set you up for the kind of expectations that you really should have going into the movie.
Well, good thing I didn't watch the trailer then, because it didn't.
Well, there you go.
My going
often
into it.
The opposite is true. Often the best 3 minutes of the movie are in the trailer, and if you've seen that, you've seen the movie. But that's not true here.
No, often that is the case. But my overall impression is it felt like a what's affectionately referred to as a let's play. I don't know if it is an official term or not, but the videos in which you watch people play on YouTube, play video games, referred to as let's play, and that's how I viewed the movie. In my review, I described the screenplay as a screenplay generated by an algorithm drawing its information from Reddit threads. So, what did you think of the screenwriting, Gino? And
well, I think you need to get off the fence and tell us what you really feel.
Oh my gosh! Because it is stripped down storytelling, good, bad, or indifferent, neither positive nor negative. It is what I would describe as stripped down storytelling. Some seem to have liked it. People like me, not so much. A lot of meme literate dialogue. A lot of opportunities that are going to find their way into GIFs on Twitter and other social media. And so modern audiences here may actually engage with this movie. And my producers today are among the student body at Gulf Coast State College, and so I told them going into this, I'm in the minority on it, so who knows? They may be other audiences that like it. So what did you think of the screenwriting, Gino? And I really want to tap into, do you think this is what modern audiences, something for which they may be looking?
Well, I'll answer the second question first, in that, I don't know that I can fairly speak for what modern audiences are looking for in films, because I usually find modern filmmaking expectations to be fatiguing and bad for movies. But as far as the screenplay on this film, it's true there's not a lot of dialogue on here. So if you're looking for a heavy dialogue film, if you're looking for something that's got a lot of nuance to it, this isn't that movie. But what I think the screenplay did was, I think the screenplay took a story that's been pretty much through the ringer and played out about as much as you can play it out. And I think what they did was they managed to do what I would have thought was almost impossible, and they found an angle to tell a story that completely differs from anything. In fact, any alien movie I've seen in the last 10 years, I think that none of them go to the place that this one does, and to me, that's where it starts. I love the screenplay. I think it was a great idea. I think it was clever. I think it was courageous, and from there on, it just gets better.
So the screening you were at, was the general audience also invited to the screening?
There were some people, people who won tickets and stuff. We did get to see it in Dolby, in the nice sound and the shaking chairs. So that was kind of good, and I think that was apropos for the film.
So,
go ahead.
What was your overall feeling? And I know you and I don't stop and talk with everybody after a movie. We go there, we watch the movie, we take our notes, and we generally go home. We may talk amongst ourselves, but
I do actually more. I usually stick around longer than you do in those days. But
the audience, though, maybe not so much the audience. What was their reaction to the movie?
Oh, their reaction was incredible.
Really?
There was a lot of cheering. Throughout this movie.
Okay.
And you know what? The movie contains, what surprised me maybe the most is the movie contains some actually really nice humor in certain scenes, and the audience reacted hugely to that. The audience reacted to some of these moments where it's obviously intended for laughs.
Yeah.
But they did. This was one of the most lively audiences that I've been around in a long time, and when I mean lively, I don't mean they're just talking on their phones and doing stuff. These people were engaged in the movie more than usual, and they laughed where they were supposed to laugh. They cheered at places they were supposed to cheer. I mean, they're cheering for the bad guy. That's the beautiful part about this film.
Yeah. When I'm sitting there, and when I watched it, there was just a handful of people in the auditorium. Yeah. And unlike the audience, I found it so difficult to feel fully engaged. I feel, without looking at the screenplay, I don't know, but my interpretation is all throughout the screenplay, either literally or figuratively, there are things like, we'll fix it later, or funny line here. And then they neglect to return to the page in order to fix it before the principal photography.
Well, for me, the humor didn't come from any of the lines. There's a lot of great physical humor in this movie.
So,
how did your audience react? There were other people there. Did they laugh at the part? Did they cheer?
Fairly disengaged as well. Again, just a handful of other people. So it wasn't really close enough to any one person to get a sense of it. But you
didn't have to be. Quite honestly, you could hear them. I mean, you could hear the whole thing. Now, let me ask you a question. The people who entered your screening, did anyone actually check to double check and make sure they had a pulse? Were these people actually alive?
I don't know. Somebody might have needed to check my pulse or hooked me up to an IV with espresso going directly into my veins. Because I tell you, Gino, I nearly fell asleep in this movie.
Oh, wow. See, we had usually a lot. This is surprising me. I think this is the most we've disagreed in a movie.
It is. I like it, though. I like it.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I just found there's no sense of escalation or tension or rhythm. It's just a
no
series.
Sense of escalation.
No.
Do you see how many dudes get
how many
out?
CG creations could be shoved into a single picture? Yes, I did.
Okay,
and because of that...
There, I'll give you. Yeah, it's
just flashy
CG
moments.
Love fest. I get that. That's
all
fair.
it is. We got CG Predator face. We've got CG Elle Fanning legs. We've got CG replicant dude army guy. And so it's just, I feel, Gino, that if I walked onto the set, if I was out there, I don't know if this was shot at Disney Studios or the former Fox Studios or not, but I feel if I had walked out onto the set, I would see little to nothing of what I'm actually watching on the screen. It's just, there's so little that is tangible, and because of that, it just seemed like a series of flashy moments stitched together, much like a video game, because the movie feels just as synthetic as the characters. And
you must hate the Avatar.
Punching at air. Oh yes. I'm. We may not even review that on my show because I don't like it when I have to be negative all the time on movies. I want to enjoy movies, but going into this, knowing how different we were, I want to know I want to know about the other approaches. So looking at just the story that's being told, I get it. We've got Nutani from Alien. It's now here in Predator. It's Disney's way of linking them together to have their version of Alien versus Predator. I get all of that.
And there are plenty of alien Easter eggs.
Yes,
there.
There are many.
Corporation. Did you see the Independence Day?
No, that I did not. I did not see the Independence Day Easter egg. Where was that?
If people look in the spaceship in the very beginning when you see the skulls like you often do, there is a skull of one of the aliens from Independence Day.
No way.
Yeah.
Okay, well, listeners, if you're heading out
cool.
to see it, there's something you could look for there.
So look for that. Yeah, look for the Independence Day skull. I mean, who knows? Maybe that's leading somewhere. That would be interesting.
It could. So just the story itself, so not screenwriting mechanics, and I know a lot of times that's where my hang-ups are with contemporary cinema. So screenwriting mechanics aside, the story we have here, what was it, Gino, about the story that grabbed you? Because it clearly did, and I really want to know why. What was it about this story?
I'll tell you why. First of all, it was a coming-of-age story, but of course it was a coming-of-age story in an alien culture, something that we're perhaps not used to. As a Star Trek fan, you might relate this to the animated Star Trek episode where Spock goes through this. You know, where they have to earn their place in their society by going out there and getting their trophy, which means cutting something or somebody's head off.
Yeah.
And so I love the idea that this was a coming-of-age story, and then the creature, when he's performing this coming-of-age story, he actually then has an emotional coming-of-age. When he finds out that, you know, when he joins forces with this robotic woman, and finds out that together, you know, they could do something actually really cool together. The whole idea of the cooperation stuff, and then of course when he meets with his people again, it kind of like a little bit of a flip off. You know, it's like, you know what, you guys aren't the be all and end all of discovery and enlightenment, and that's what I love about the movie. It's more hopeful than any Predator movie that I've seen. It's hopeful in the fact that, you know, now we're seeing these people these things as not just mindless, you know, killers that want to hunt and, you know, that's all ingrained in their head. Now we're seeing them as emotional beings who can make intelligent decisions, can become attached to something or someone, and, you know, to me, that's what it did. Forget the CG face. It's the heart that I love in the movie. I mean, yeah, okay, you got CG all over the place. That's fair. You know, that's definitely fair. It looks like a video game all too often. But I love the heart of it all, man. I love the heart. And to be able to play the heart without having the normal things that we have of, you know, eyes and facial expressions. Yeah. So all this is done without the benefit of that. And I love that. It shows me that this, you know, stupid CG every place, you know, modernistic, as you're talking about audiences, can actually come up with something that means something, that has a little bit of a heartbeat behind it. And so that's what gave the movie, I found very hopeful. Very hopeful.
Well, I may find hope in its ability to put me to sleep in the future. I will... Well,
there's certainly enough action and rousing score moments. That's
just it, though. It's like, by all measurable accounts, I should not have been looking at my watch or dozing off. I did not completely fall asleep, listeners. I did watch the whole movie, but I certainly felt challenged to stay awake. But you're right, Gino. The sheer scale and spectacle of it all really should have, if nothing else, even if it was just a really crappy story, which I know you like it, I don't, but regardless of the quality of the story, just everything else in the movie should have been enough to keep my attention, but it wasn't, and I don't know, perhaps I was hopeful. We're talking about hope. Maybe I was hopeful that it was going to be closer to the original Predator. I don't need anything to be the original Predator, but something closer in tone to it, and maybe that's what it is. You know, maybe for me, in my more subjective opinion, because listeners, contrary to popular opinion, there is objectivity in film criticism. Art is not entirely subjective. There are objective opinions. So. Yeah, maybe that's where my subjective opinion comes in, is that I was looking for it to be that, and when it wasn't, perhaps I didn't allow myself to enjoy some of the other elements, because Predator is is the bad guy. Alien versus Predator, they're both bad guys. So I mean, you root for both of them, and I have no issue rooting for the bad guy. Hey, we all do it. Friday the 13th, Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street movies. Well, we rooting for the villain isn't anything new.
Hey, The Sopranos, man.
And Sopranos, yes. And so in Wolf of Wall Street, you can even make the argument rooting for the villain. So I don't have an issue, in a movie that takes that turn, but it was like who's the villain? There wasn't a central villain in my opinion. There was expressions of villainy, but I did not find where this is our central character or characters. We've got Thea and Deck and our character of opposition. Who would you describe? And we'll talk about this.
Same villain that we had in the last. Same villain we had in the last Mission Impossible movies. The villain was the AI. It was Mother. Going back to the Alien franchise. That's who the villain was. The villain was Mother. The villain was wanted this creature taken out. That's it might have been the last of its species. I don't know if they're clear completely with that. But the fact is Mother was throwing people at this villain that they knew was pretty much undefeatable, and so people were being thrown as fodder, which I think is a great analogy to our wars. Also, the film challenges you to pay attention, because I got to tell you, if you just miss 10 minutes of this film, you don't understand what the heck is going on.
No, that is true.
Because again, in the narrative, you don't have the common traditional narrative. You don't have a lot of conversation. You don't have someone telling you what's going on. Instead, I love that I had to pay attention, and I had to weed out the narrative from among the CGI distractions, and that's what I loved about it, man. I weeded all that stuff out, and I found a character who was much more developed than any Predator had been developed before, and eventually he became compelling to watch, and I actually cared about both of these characters, which is hard to do in a movie like this, but I did. I was rooting for him by the end. I cared about whether these characters were going to go down or not.
Well, on that note, you are listening to Real Talk on 90.7 WKGC listeners. I'm your host, R.L. Terry, and today I am joined by returning guest, film critic Gino Sassani. This hour, we are reviewing Predator Badlands, now in cinemas nationwide. If movies are your thing, give us a ring, 850-772-6803 to join us on air, or if it's more convenient, you can text us at 850-329-8936. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with our vastly different opinions after this break. Welcome back to Real Talk on 90.7 WKGC. I'm your host, R.L. Terry, and today I am joined by returning guest, film critic Gino Sassani. This hour we are reviewing Predator Badlands, now in cinemas nationwide. If movies are your thing, give us a ring, 850-772-6803 to join us on air, or you can text the show if it's more convenient at 850-329-8936. Gino, in my review, make the argument that the characters are, quote, digital avatars. You mentioned Avatar earlier. With, quote, no arcs and paper-thin motivations. I know at this point it's all that academic that we disagree on this point. But many critics have remarked, like you, liking the dynamic between Deck and Thea, the synthetic ally listeners, played by Elle Fanning. Yeah. What do you think of the relationship? And you talked about it a little briefly before we went into the first break that you more about your connection with them, but specific to the relationship between them, what do you make or think of their relationship dynamic?
I think that's part of, like I say, when you're saying it doesn't seem to have those things, that's exactly what it has. These people, you notice when they separate at some point and they're on this dangerous planet and, facing all kinds of bad things, he actually goes out of his way to rescue her. To me, that's a major emotional beat. I mean, we've got these creatures that are mostly hunters. It doesn't seem to be in their DNA, at least from what we've seen in the past, that they would go out there and rescue, someone who wasn't one of their brothers in arms. I mean, they do that for a fellow, predator. but he goes and he rescues her. He sees value in this my species person, and it turns out he gets rewarded for that, because by doing that, she helps him to attain the goal he's trying to do. And also, boy, you want to say no expressions. When he realizes that they want to kill this creature, which is the mother of the other creature, how can you not say he doesn't? You can see him make the change there. You can see where that bothers him, even with the CG and not the emotive face. He's bothered by the fact that they're going to kill this mother to this other creature, and so to me, that's that emotional content. That's more than just the CG. There's emotion there, and you can see it, and at least I could. I mean, it was absolutely true that he felt connected not only to this robot woman, but he felt connected to this creature that he was sent there to kill. Did you not get that when he found out that was his mother, and they were going to kill this little creature's mom?
I did. I felt more connection to the roly-poly-oly. What was it? Because I kept thinking of Kalis. Every time that would come on, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is Klingons and Kalis.
Yeah, it's Kalix, or I forget exactly how it's pronounced.
And so I felt I had more of a connection with that character than I did with Predator or Thea. And so I was definitely rooting. I was rooting for our. I'm going to call him Kalis. It's not Kalis, listeners, but that's the only thing that sticks in my mind. So,
but did you
I felt that connection with her or him.
But did you not notice that he, like you, he started to feel for this thing he was sent to kill? How could you miss that beat?
I didn't miss it. There wasn't a lot of there wasn't any, I felt manipulated as the audience. Like, the movie did not earn that moment. It was much like a video game in which it's just you click on a character's thought bubble, or I'm not a gamer, listener, so if I don't have the terms correct, please forgive me. You click on a character's thought bubble, you hear what they say, they tell you what they feel, and they do occasionally, back it up with meaningful actions. The moments didn't feel earned to me, and
except you just made my point.
But they didn't feel earned. It's like that moment was there. The moment didn't feel earned by the film. It didn't feel earned,
but you notice what you just said. You actually got, without the benefit of dialogue, without the benefit of human and facial expressions, without the benefit of them being able to emote, you still got, no matter how manipulated you think it was, somehow this creature, this ones and zeros creature did show you an emotional moment. So if you think about it, well, how did he do that?
Well, they've been doing it for a long time. Even Norma Desmond said we didn't need dialogue; we had faces. And so I think it's.
But they didn't even have faces. Well, that's the problem. You got a CGI face.
A face-like. It wasn't that I didn't get what was happening. It didn't feel earned, because it felt like I'm watching little more than digital avatars shooting and shouting and running around for reasons that never felt personal or compelling sufficiently enough. I say the lead could have been replaced by a different actor, and by lead I'm talking about Deck, the Predator, listeners. The lead could have been replaced by a different actor mid-film, and you'd not even notice. I'm not even convinced that Deck wasn't entirely CGI. I'm hoping it's just the face. I hope the whole thing wasn't CGI. But it's like I felt the character pleading for me through his nonverbal communication. What's my motivation? It's difficult to say. There wasn't much upon which to build. The motivations are paper thin, and the arcs are non-consistent. The Predator itself. But the Predator itself, once a symbol of primal fear and unseen menace, now feels like a boss-level NPC, non-player character, waiting to be triggered by the next QuickTime event.
Except the motivation, how can you say there's not much motivation when this guy tells you that unless you can complete this task, you are not a worthy member of your own species? Imagine someone telling you that, well, Ryan, if you don't do a good job on this show today, you're not really worthy of even being a human being, and you should be just slaughtered and thrown in a ditch somewhere. See, those are the subtle things that you had to really get out of it because they're there.
So you felt connected to the beginning, because the beginning it lost me. I'm like, I kept waiting and waiting and waiting for to have some kind of context. I by no means need to be spoon-fed a movie. I enjoy cerebral films. However, I was dropped into the middle of the action in not a good way. It was just like, I have no idea where I am. What is going on? Oh my gosh, and I'm not going to say what happens at the very beginning. I don't want to give away anything. So, and like, okay, so that just happened. Okay, I think I get it now, but I felt I felt alien in every measurable way. It's just like, I'm not connected to this at all. There's insufficient context for me.
You went in there, and this was my problem originally too. I didn't get what I expected either, but it turned out the other way. You went in there expecting either something horror related, something you went in there to either see a horror movie, or you went in there to see a monster movie. You went in there to see something, these monsters picking off people like in the original Alien, or the original Predator even. Mm-hmm. But what you got so unexpectedly is you got this peek behind the Predator culture. You get this peek about how they deem themselves of any worth or value, because this guy's brother's fighting for his brother, and because he's about to be challenged, and you can see it right in the dog. The guy's telling him, you're worthless, you're not even worth my time to kill you, because you're not even worth anything, and he goes out to prove himself. I mean, that's something we can all understand. I mean, we all have gone out there having to prove ourselves, and everybody else told us, kid, you ain't got no talent, I've had that musically. I have people tell me, don't quit your day job, kid. Go out there, do it. And you use that as motivation, and he did. So I guess that's the part I don't understand. It's all laid out there. I mean, how can you have better stakes than your whole identity as a member of your species boils down to whether you can do this thing or not?
Okay. Well, here's an analogy that you and I can both get behind, and perhaps you can use the analogy to help me better understand, because I'm willing to listen. So I can tell you what I appreciated about, in retrospect, what I appreciated about the beginning, and some of the, we'll call it lore throughout the movie. What I appreciated about it is that I mentioned Kalis earlier. Well, a lot of what happens in the movie reminds me of Klingons, particularly in Next Generation and Voyager and some of the DS9 and the subsequent
This Predator culture is very much like Klingon culture. That's great. That's exactly true.
And here's my question for you, Gino, is a fellow Trekkie.
Yeah.
If I can get behind and appreciate and enjoy the Klingon culture through characters like Worf in TNG and B'Elanna Torres in Voyager, because I really enjoy those episodes. They're some of the best episodes.
Yeah, I agree.
Why can I not find that same enjoyment in here? Because I don't think this isn't Star Trek, this is Predator. I think it goes beyond that. It is.
That's an easy answer.
Why? What am I missing? I can appreciate the one because they share a lot in common. Yep. So why am I appreciating the one and not the other?
Because one of them, you have been given hundreds of hours to get to that point and develop it. Here they had 2 hours to basically give you the entire culture and ideas behind this civilization. In Star Trek Next Generation, they were building Klingons even before Worf and Next Generation. They were building Klingons at least more than just a faceless enemy. But then you got Worf on the bridge of the Enterprise. Now he's interacting with all these nice guys, all these crew members, and so they did a good job of throwing great stories in there that expanded his culture over time. But you wouldn't have been able to jump to Season 7's appreciation for Klingons with just one episode in Season 1.
No.
That's the difference.
A fair point there. So it's that backstory. It's the context. I think
right,
maybe
and
if
I think we got a lot of that, but of course we didn't get as much as we get for Klingons. But I think if they keep on this way, I think we might get a really rich species here.
I think this is Disney's answer to Klingons, perhaps.
Well, I mean, yeah, I don't know. You know, I went in there scared of anything Disney's got their hands on, but you know, I was surprised.
We got a question here, Gino, from Austin, listening in Tampa. A common criticism Austin has seen is that Deck the Predator does not conform with audience views of what a predator, quote, should be. I even said something like that similar earlier in the show.
He's right. But isn't that wonderful?
Does a predator film need to stick to that original template to be successful, or do you think this film in how it breaks do you think this film breaks the mold in the right way? Thank you, Austin, for your question.
Yeah, thanks, Austin.
What do you have to say to Austin?
Austin, you're exactly right, except we did get that in the beginning. We didn't jump into this more, filled out character. As you recall, we start out with the battle in the family and with this king or whatever the heck he is. So we did get the kind of predator we're used to in the guy who's trying to take out the brother. I forget whether he's supposed to be some king or something. I don't remember what the nuance of that are. But we did get that. And they used a traditional idea of a predator to show us how different this guy is.
Well, that is,
so
we do have two. We do get both kind of predator archetypes there at the beginning. Thank you very much, Austin, for your question.
Yes, Austin. Thank you.
So, Gino, I compared watching Badlands to watching somebody else play Call of Duty. What about the sheer spectacle both works and doesn't work for you? And furthermore, do you feel that there is artistic value in pure visual adrenaline? What do you think about those points?
Well, I think that's a fair point, and that's where I probably agree with you the most. That yes.
Okay, so we have common ground on this one issue. I you know what? I can leave the show today still feeling pretty good about our relationship, Gino.
No, because you're right. You are correct in that this at many times this feels like watching somebody else play a video game, and that is frustrating. And I don't think video gaming is a spectator sport, although some people do actually enjoy watching.
Isn't it in the Olympics now? DJ Jax, is it a Block? I'm sorry, DJ Block. Is it in the Olympics now? Video gaming? Okay, he's shaking his head. Yes. So apparently,
that's terrible because you're absolutely right that that's not a spectator sport, and because of the nature of how much CGI is required to tell this story, I get that, and that's a fair assessment to me. What my argument is that by the time you get through that first little family battle that goes on, I think that we now have that these characters have been giving something more than just a video game waiting for you to put your movements and your whatever you want to do on them. I think they become independent of that when this guy crash lands on the place where he's got to go beat this supposedly invulnerable monster.
So while we're talking about that, particularly because this is an area that we can mostly both agree on. What do you make of that video game quality or that I would say dynamic? We'll call it that video game like dynamic.
Yeah, because sometimes it looks like a cutscene.
Yeah. So
on a
do you
game.
think this could be the natural evolution of cinematic language in the digital era?
I hope that's not true, but I think that there probably is some truth to that because unfortunately that's where some people get their ideas of storytelling in their lives now through video games. But if it's going to happen, and that's going to be a major part of cinematography, I hope that they're able to put the heart and life at least into the story that this one did. That would be my answer to that. I mean, I agree with all your points. It's a video game. The CG is overwhelming, and that's true. But you know what? I love Monsters Incorporated, and there wasn't a live action thing on.
No, they're There wasn't. We talked a lot about
it can happen. I think it's harder for that to happen. I think you're definitely right that it's harder for that kind of a movie to connect with us and to have those emotional beats. I agree with that 100%. I just tend to think that this one actually did that.
So, on the visual elements of the movie, I want to talk about the editing here very briefly. I found the editing to be incredibly manic.
Yeah,
even though
even
though the narrative didn't demand that kind of editing, it felt like it was employed because, in my opinion, the movie was so terrified you'd look away or look down at your watch, which I did several times. And so as often as it could, to keep the movie constantly in motion, it was between the cinematography and the editing, everything is constantly in motion. And maybe that's another issue that I have with it. I felt like I could never breathe. But again, kind of gets to that video game quality that you and I talked about a moment ago. So, talk about the editing and your thoughts on the more stylistic choices they made, and then we'll head into our next break. But what are your thoughts on that?
I think you're right about that, in that the way this is made, I think, does affect the editing and the pacing. Because here's the problem. If you have an image that's entirely made up, it's entirely CG, you can't really stop. And I think that's for the manic editing. I don't think you can take the time to stop and linger, or else if you stop and linger, the fakeness comes out. So I don't think it's because of people are going to look at their watches and look away. I think it's to hide the fact that this isn't really there. I think that you do that so that people don't look at it too closely and realize, well, this doesn't look as real as hoping. So that's what I think, because I see that a lot in these kind of movies now. Manic editing that drives me nuts. I'll give you that one too, because I go crazy on that. But I think with CG like this, I think it's so that you don't take time to see the mistakes. It's also darker for that reason too. I thought the film was too dark.
It was very dark. You're right.
I'm not talking about theme so much. I'm talking about the lighting on the movie.
Right.
I think I think they do that for the same exact reason. I think they don't want you pausing and looking at something too carefully. Is the problem with that?
Because you may see the cracks in the facade.
Exactly. The more you keep moving, the less chance you have to really notice the detail.
You are listening to Real Talk on 90.7 WKGC. I'm your host, R.L. Terry, and today I am joined by returning guest, film critic Gino Sassani. This hour we are reviewing Predator Badlands, now in cinemas nationwide. If movies are your thing, give us a ring, 850-772-6803 to join us on air, or you can text us, as Austin from Tampa did, at 850-329-8936. Don't go anywhere, listeners. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to Real Talk on 90.7 WKGC. I'm your host, R.L. Terry, and today I am joined by returning guest and friend of the show, film critic Gino Sassani. This hour we are reviewing Predator Badlands, now in cinemas nationwide. If movies are your thing, give us a ring, 850-772-6803 to join us on air, or if it's more convenient, you can text us at 850-329-8936. Now, Gino, over the years, I felt that Disney has mistaken familiarity for depth. They've wielded that weapon of that to which we are most familiar, and they wield it in a way that almost replicates depth, but it isn't there. Do you see Badlands as an example of that observation I've made, and do you think we are increasingly witnessing the pedestrian taste in and influence of YouTube and social media on cinema?
I think that's certainly true in the way Disney's handled Star Wars going forward. I see a lot of that, but I don't really think this is an example, because, like I said, I see there is depth here. So that's where we disagree. If I didn't see the depth, you would be absolutely right. This would be another example of that. And like I said, I think Disney has long since decided that just throw familiar things at them, and that's how you do Star Wars anymore. So I agree with Disney does that. I just don't really think this is an example of that. I see a lot of depth in here, and I guess that's where our big difference is. And I can see where if you didn't see the depth, I can see where just the simple animated CG stuff can just be irritating and just dragging. This movie went fast for me. I was amazed at how quickly it was over.
Oh, I mean, by the time the movie was over, I think I should have been able to make an entire pot roast. And so,
that's what I'm saying. You probably felt like you spent a week in the theater.
So it was moving. So okay, so we do agree on that video game aspect. And we kind of diverge from there, but that is a common point. I'm going to use that as a springboard. So
I think that's certainly there. Yeah.
So
I think it's common.
When I'm looking at it, I view it as, I likened it to a Let's Play YouTube video earlier. It's a passive experience of someone else's thrill ride. It's the ultimate form of living vicariously. You're disconnected, but yet you're living vicariously through these characters. The ultimate form. When people are watching others play video games or watching others talk about a movie or watching others do something, it's like you're so busy watching other people do stuff. Maybe you should get out and do it yourself. That's a conversation. That's a conversation for another time. But
I agree with you 100% there.
That approach though leads me to feel that there may be other audience. I hope I'm not the only one who feels this way. Hopefully there are at least some others that are out there that there's just the audience doesn't question anything because it take too long to realize, and if you realize something, maybe the movie is a bit hollow. I know we disagree on whether or not it's hollow, but it's kind of like the point you made about don't look too close at the CG, and it's why it moves so fast. So they don't want you to take too long in looking at it.
That's true.
I was not engaged. I felt that I was witnessing what was going on. I wasn't fully engaged, immersed in the film. And the irony is the film could have been a fascinating critique of screen-mediated experiences, but it never once stops to think. On that topic, did you see that? Because I saw glimpses of this. I'm like, ooh, we're going for a commentary on screen-mediated experiences, liking it to what's going on here in the real world. It never went there. Maybe it was never intended to go there, but I got glimpses of this. What do you make of that observation, Gino, that I had of glimpses of commentary on screen-mediated experiences?
Well, I think that's exactly what I've been talking about. I think that's the difference here is that I think we both agree there were glimpses of that. I happen to think there were more than glimpses. Mm-hmm. I think there were genuine moments there. But, yeah, certainly there were glimpses of heart and all that kind of stuff there. I don't think that you could walk out of the movie just feeling like, game over. And it sounds to me like that's kind of the metaphor you're trying to make there is that, the screen the movie was over, it was like game over.
Mm-hmm.
And, so what the heck did we do?
Or the idea of just living through other people, watching YouTube videos. I know individuals that's what they watch. They don't go to the cinema. They don't even watch, quote, TV. They watch YouTube all the time. And a lot of what they watch is other people doing things, other people talking about things, other people reacting to things. And it's just like, well, don't you want to be those people that are living that, listening to that, watching that? Be those people. Don't be satisfied with watching what somebody else thinks. And I would have liked to have seen more of that because I think we get it in Hostel. I've said before, not a fan of the torture porn subgenre of horror, but what I appreciate about Hostel is that commentary on the mediation of society. And so I thought I thought we were going to get more of that in here. But we've talked about a lot, Gino, and we've got about 10 minutes left in the show here, 10, 12 minutes. I want to make sure we get to some of the observations that you made. And so what are some of the things that, because I know you recently reviewed this movie with one of our colleagues, John Patch at WNF.
Yeah, we talked about it in Sean
so
Patch,
what are some of the things that you guys talked about on there? I'd love to share that with our listeners here on Real Talk.
Well, John was on my. I mean, we didn't disagree. John was of the same feeling that he thought that the Predator series had gone too too much into a formula, whereas you do this, and he was encouraged by the fact that we broke out of that formula,
Okay.
and me too. And like I said, the idea that I felt some emotion coming from this predator, that's something I have never felt from a predator except for maybe anger, even going back to the Schwarzenegger, original film. So to me, that's where. I love it. Is this a great film? Of course not. I'm not going to put this thing up for, a classic that's going to stand the test of time. But I think that this film could head us in a direction that I think might be refreshing for these kind of films. Because you're going to get that CG stuff whether you like it or not. It's can you get as you're hoping for? Can you get a nice experience out of that? Can you get something out of there that adds something to your life while you're watching it? And I agree with you there that that's the problem with this kind of cinema. We just disagree whether this film does that or not.
I've heard some individuals, including some colleagues of ours, liken this movie to Star Wars. Now I don't know to which Star Wars, original Disney Star Wars. I don't know. I've just seen it likened to Star Wars. Have you heard other critics talking about likening it to Star Wars? And if so, where are they drawing those parallels? Because I
don't know.
I'm not seeing the Star Wars, but it's come up several times, and I've not seen it.
They
so
both
I don't know
happen in
if
space.
they
both happen in
there's got to
space.
be. I wonder if it has something to do with the perhaps the three most recent mainline Star Wars movies, starting with Force Awakens to whatever the last one was.
Oh, you know what they might be thinking of, though? I can see a point maybe where the Deck, I'm not sure that's his name, but where Deck might remind people of the Pascal character from The Mandalorian, a bounty hunter type of thing. It is a similar thing like that, where he goes out there and he's has to take on these big monsters. So I guess I see that, but I don't think that's an essential part of it. And so I wouldn't say that it was carbon copied off of that at all. But you're right; it's true with the Star Wars thing, and it's attention span. I don't think it's the studios; it's the audience attention span. They get fidgety.
Yeah, you show them something longer than 30 seconds, and they're like, "Okay, where's the intermission?"
You and I can sit down and watch a 3-hour movie and not take a break, unless nature calls. And I know people who can't do that.
Yeah.
It's just not possible.
Yes, they can sit there and spend umpteen hours on Netflix watching You Fill in the Blank TV show, and it's just like the 10 hours that you spent watching You Fill in the Blank show, and it's like you can't watch a 2-hour movie. I've yet to find the rationale that supports that approach. But it gets me to something else that we've got a couple minutes here. We've got time to talk about it. That so talking about that, the social media attention spans. That's a great segue, Gino. Thank you very much for that. When does a movie stop being cinema and just start being? It just begins to be content. When does a movie stop being cinema and become content?
I think two things.
What qualifiers do you think of?
Yeah, I think of two elements that took it there. The first is, that you're watching it that you can somehow watch it on a 5-inch screen. The other thing is that people do not watch and do other things. I've noticed people watch a movie now. Now they're on their phone texting while they're watching the movie, or they're playing a video game, or people don't spend the attention on a single thing. So the movie is not like the experience where you're dedicating whatever time to watching this movie. Now people are they're multitasking all the time. It's that multitasking, I think, is what you're zooming in on there, and that's frustrating to me. But if that's how people want to watch their movies, what am I going to do? I just don't take away my ability to watch them in the grand style.
So I agree with you there. I think you hit on all the major points of what is driving that trend. Looking at
movies used to be events for us. Going to a movie used to be an event. Now it's just something to do while I'm doing other things too. I mean, it's one of the 5 or 6 things you happen to be doing at that moment. So
in terms of the say the content of the movie, because I'm talking about it's like it's become content. Well, for lack of a better description, when does the content of a movie cease being cinema and the content become content? And for this, I'm really talking about storytelling, plot, characters, everything. We'll just call it all screenwriting, all storytelling. When does that stop being cinema and become content?
It stops being cinema when you can do something else while you're doing it. When it doesn't
it still gets back to
command
that. Okay.
your attention. Yeah, I think that's when it stops being cinema. Because to me, cinema that's what your attention is to.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you have a movie where you don't really feel the need or have to spend your entire attention on it, then it ceases to be cinema for me. Then it's just like you say, content. Then it's like it doesn't matter really what's on the screen. It could be an episode of television. It could be a movie. It could be a trailer. They don't care. That's where it ceases to be cinema. And I think that's in the mind of the person, not in the filmmakers, I hope.
I certainly hope so. But a lot of thought-provoking material on our show today, Gino. Thank you so much. I hope we have more of these in the future. But I also appreciate the ones in which we're both fanboys. But I really,
I'm down for it.
really like this. So, but we are nearing the end of the show today. Where can listeners, Gino, find out more information on your reviews and music?
Upcomingdisc.com, no K on the disc, just like you're talking about a CD or something. Upcomingdisc.com is where you'll find the reviews, and you will find the music at gesociety.com.
And if you missed any of today's episode or to listen to past episodes of Real Talk or other shows on WKGC, we are on a podcatcher near you. Just search for WKGC Public Media on your podcast service of choice. Real Talk will be back next Monday to review Now You See Me, Now You Don't, and even a preview that's further out on the 24th of this month, listeners. We are celebrating the 40th anniversary of Clue, and I'm so excited to share my love and my guest love of Clue with you guys. And so you've got time to watch Clue between now and the 24th, so you don't want to miss that. Now You See Me, Now You Don't next week, and Clue the week of Thanksgiving. Stay tuned for Jazz in a Minor Key with Walter Hale coming up next, followed by the Afternoon Spin with DJ Maggie starting at 3 o'clock. Thanks to all of you for listening. I hope you'll tune in again next week, same time, same place, for more Real Talk on 90.7 WKGC.
Support for WKGC Public Media comes from listeners like you, people who believe in the power of local radio to inform, inspire, and connect the Emerald Coast community. Your gift helps keep educational and entertaining programs on the air while creating hands-on learning opportunities for students. Become a listener supporter today and give securely at WKGC.org. WKGC, education, entertainment, and everything in between.